Foresight, and innovative thinking often makes her literally the smartest person in the room. She's an award-winning author, globally recognized innovation expert, and the CEO of Future Think, which has enabled organizations in over 40 countries to embrace change. That's how to embrace something. She chronicled her visionary ideas about achieving success through simplification in her best-selling book, with a title that I suspect would gain the approval of those bots in that Carrie Fisher support group. The title of the book is Kill the Company. Here to tell us much more about how eliminating status quo processes can increase the success of your organization. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lisa Bodell. Thank you.
Sorry, with me anytime. Thank you. Okay, good morning. How's everybody doing? Good. Well, I have a very simple task today. I want to help you create more space for change and innovation in your organization, and I want to help you do it in very simple ways. Does that sound good? Yes? How many people here in the last 3 years have heard a presentation on either change or innovation? Just raise your hand. Yeah, just about everybody in the room. So I know that everyone here is familiar with the topics of change and innovation. That's your job at work. My question is, why aren't we better at it? Why haven't we become experts in change and innovation? And I wanted to find out why this pushback on change and innovation happens in so many companies. So as a speaker, I go around and I talk to about 100,000 people a year, all over the world. And I started asking audiences like this a very simple question to figure out what was holding us back from change and innovation. And the question was this: what do you spend your day doing? Think about that. What do you spend your day doing? And I was surprised not at the uniqueness of the answers that I got, but the absolute consistency of them. So no matter where I was speaking, no matter what country, what company, what industry, regulated, unregulated, what function or role the people I was speaking to played in their organization, they all answered with the exact same thing. What do you spend your day doing? And they answered, meetings and emails. Does that sound familiar? Meetings and emails. And then when you kept going, it didn't get much better. Policies, reports, etc. And so I have this feeling that people get up in the morning to do meaningful work. I don't have a single friend that wakes up in the morning, looks at their inbox and says, oh, look at these emails, I'm so popular. Right? My husband has never looked at me in the morning, looked at his calendar or diary and said, oh my God, I thought I was going to be bored today. Check out all these meetings, right? I don't even know if I'll make it back in time for dinner. You're welcome. No one says that. Or they should have therapy, right? That's not something people do. So it made me realize that how we tend to go about change and innovation is all wrong in our organizations, and that's what led me to my book. The very things that we put in place to help us better change or innovate are often the very things that put a chokehold on them. And they're very human behaviors, right, around power and control. We put things in place like meetings, reports, policies, procedures, emails, governing bodies. Those are all very, very important things. But they can't be the only thing you do, and often they become an excuse not to do anything at all. And I believe if we really want to get better at change and innovation, maybe the first thing we have to do is stop doing things to create the space for change and innovation to happen, to kill or get rid of that status quo that's not working, to make the space for work that matters. So I want to talk a little bit about what holds us back, those behaviors that we have to change, and then give you some things that you can do right now to create that change in your company. So let's start talking a little bit about what holds us back. And I think there are twin evils in our company. First, there's complexity. And these are things you all know, the complexity that you feel every single day. But the result is what's more important or bad that happens in a company, and it's complacency, right? That feeling where I'm just not going to fight it anymore, right? Everything's fine. Let's not worry about this. It's going well. Let's rest on it. And what happens, though, with this complacency is we get this inertia, this inability to change, right? This behavior that lets us settle in. And we don't know if we're in a groove or if we're in a rut. And I saw this, I'll tell you a story of how I got to my book, Kill the Company, and what it really means. I was working with one of the largest manufacturing companies in the world. You'd know them if I told you their name. And we were called down to Raleigh to work with one of their largest divisions, their top 50 people, to talk about the future of manufacturing. And they were pretty forward thinking. They said the future to them, I know how future thinking they are when they set their time horizon for me. And their time horizon was the future of manufacturing 2030. That's pretty good, right? It's not the future of 2018, 2030. And so I brought my staff down to Raleigh with this group, and it was myself, a couple other of my futurists, some other cognitive learning experts and trainers, and we were going to take them on a journey to come up with scenarios for the future during a day session. And we got down there, I kicked it off, and then my team was going to do the rest of the day. So I started in, and about 30 minutes into it, 30 minutes in, I'm talking about future trends, I'm doing some cool thinking around from impossible to possible. I looked at the room and I realized I am literally bombing. And you have to know, as a public speaker or anyone that's ever presented, it is the most uncomfortable, awkward, terrible feeling in the world. Literally, the nonverbals were like this, people are checking their phones, no one's looking at me in the eye, this kind of stuff. So I called the audible, and I figured I can't keep going. And I said, listen, we're going to take a 15-minute break. And I got off stage, and of course I go to the restroom, and I want to stay in the fetal position for literally as long as humanly possible. But I can't, right? I have to get back out there. I'm bombing in front of my entire team. It's so embarrassing for me. And I come out and I'm doing that, okay, I'm thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Got to fix this quickly. And I see the most senior guy there. And I said, hey, can you tell me what's going on? I thought we were talking about the future. I'm not understanding why people aren't engaging. And he looked at me like I had three heads. He said, what are you talking about? It's fine. I thought, God, I must be from a different planet. And he said, no, Lisa, it's not that people don't want to change. To be honest, in our culture, we really no longer believe we can affect it. And I thought, oh my God, if these are the largest division, the top 50 people, and they were really just kind of phoning it in, what about the rest of the company? So I said, forget, they're not going to ask me back, I figured, so I might as well just go for it. I got to try something new. And I rearranged the room into smaller groups, everybody by their same function or business, smaller part of the business unit together. Right, so I had legal here, procurement, I had marketing, rocketry, whatever it was, in their small groups. And I said, here's what we're going to do. You have 5 minutes, and I want you to figure out who your number one competitor is. So legal might have somebody internal, they might have somebody external that they envy and wish they could be like, and it would be different for rocketry, et cetera. And they all figured out who their number one competitor was that kept them up at night, or they were envious of. And after they figured that out, I said, okay, now we've got 30 minutes, and we're going to do an exercise. I want you to kill your company. I want you to wear that hat, pretend you are your competitor, and I want you to put your current company out of business. I want you to attract your weaknesses. I want you to figure out what's wrong with the products, with the services, how you would attract the pricing model. And it was like I had lit the room on fire. It was like, concert lighters are going off. Everyone's so finally engaged. I thought, God, this is really telling. But I was giving them permission, right, to attack and get rid of versus the political correctness that we so often get stuck in, right, with strategic planning. This was me mandating to say what isn't working so we can get rid of it or fix it to make things right. Right, because think about it with strategic planning. That's usually where you retrench things and you look at stuff. And here's how strategic planning typically happens in your organization. Right, you take out last year's PowerPoint deck, last year's PowerPoint strategic presentation, you open it up, you change the date, and you save it. Strategic planning has begun, right? Then we go into the SWOT. We have strengths. We have a lot of strengths, always a lot of strengths. We have weaknesses, but are they really weaknesses, guys? Aren't they opportunities? And we go, and of course, there's the financials, and I'm making light of it, but we laugh because it's true, right? We have these behaviors that hold us back. So I want you to think about, right, I want to get really tactical here. If you went back with your part of the organization and said, I want us to kill our part of the company, what would you come up with? And what could you figure out that you came up with a weakness that then you could also turn back on your competition? How would you kill your company? Well, first, what holds us back, and then let's get to some simple things you can do similarly to this to kill things that aren't working. Here's what I think is holding you back in your company. The first is, I think most of us are managing, not leading. Right? We don't have time. We're managing things. We're not leading. And if we are leading, actually, we're just being professional skeptics. We are really good at grooming people to say what's not working, what's wrong with something, right? To eliminate risk versus being able to say what's good about something and taking one. We value more versus less, and this is how we get into that complexity trap. We are rewarded based on how much revenue, how many products, how many people, how many countries, and that's great. But at some point, getting rid of is important too. And the final thing is our addiction, our literal addiction to doing overthinking. Think about it. In a lot of companies, thinking has become a daring act. You walk into someone's office, right? Visualize this. You walk into someone's office, and they're just looking out the window. And you go, hey, Steve, what are you doing? And Steve goes, oh, I'm just thinking. What's the first thing that pops into your mind? Get back to work, right? I wish I had time to do that. And I tell this story that happened to me. I sit on this advisory board with some scientists at 3M, and they are some of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. I like to say that the geeks are my peeps. I just love them. They do more creating tomorrow today than anybody I know, and they think that they're not doing much at all, which I find so ironic. And I'm sitting at this board meeting, and we get done and we go to cocktails. And I like all the cognitive learning experts, right? And I'm sitting there with one of their one of their neurologists, actually. And this guy's a doctor, and I told him how I thought thinking had become a daring act. And he was typically a really introverted guy, but he became really animated when I said this. And he said, oh, I agree that thinking has become a daring act in companies. And he said, you know, Lisa, the brain is the most amazing organ that we have. Right? It starts working from the very moment that you wake up, and it doesn't stop until the very second that you set foot into your office. Like, it's so true. And why do you feel that way? Here's why you feel that way, right? Just in the last several years alone, the number of procedures, layers, coordination bodies, et cetera, depending on how complex or frankly global or layered your company is, has increased between 50 to 350%. Right? If you felt it, it's because it's real. Do you know how many people are taking a picture of this right now? Right? Go back to your boss, I told you so. But here's where it gets even more so, and this was in a really great article in HBR recently. Here's how the average person in an organization, now this is going to vary again, but on average, how people spend their time. 45% of their time is in meetings, 23% doing email. To be honest, I thought that would be switched, but I think this is only within the normal working hour day. And when a lot of us do emails before and after, right? 18% doing unproductive work. And when you read the fine print, unproductive work, by the way, is the time that you spend going from one meeting to the next. And then finally, 14% getting real work done. How do we increase that? How do we increase that percentage? Well, I want you to start to think about how you operate every day a little differently. I want you to start to make simplification a habit. How can you make it an operating principle for you? Right? Think about this. Simplification is a skill that we all possess. All the people that work for us have it, but we spend so little time nurturing it or actually empowering it or giving permission for it. This is all about the time value equation and getting to work that matters. What do you spend your time on, and is it valuable? If it's not valuable, why don't you get rid of it? If you spend a lot of time on something and it's valuable, that's great. If you spend a lot of time on something and it could be more valuable, why aren't you improving it or giving people permission to do the same? We know within organizations that are simplified, and I don't just mean efficient, I'm going to tell you what I really mean. Simplified, they are the ones that can command a price premium, 6 to 10% of a price premium, and have more loyal customers. Their employees stay longer because they're happier and more engaged. And people have more respect and trust for each other because we are not wasting each other's time. See, simplification is not about efficiency, it is about culture. Because if we get the work right, we get the culture right. Culture is the work you do every single day. That's it. And if you spend your time on meaningful work, people will get to the stuff that matters, change and innovation. All right, so let's give you a few things. I'm going to give you 3 things you can do, and I'd like you to think about as I read you these, which one do you want to try? That's it. Just try one of these in the next week with your team. They're easy, you'll look like a hero, and you'll start to get that momentum going. Here we go. The first one is about asking better questions. I loved watching all the presentations around analytics, around Watson, because the idea is not to replace you. The idea is to enhance you. But you have to be able to think as well. How good are you at thinking? If you want better answers, guys, you got to ask better questions. And most of us are terrible at it, right? You get into a room and we all say things like, okay, we got to fix this problem. Who's got an idea? That is a boring, terrible, my brain is already turned off question. The reason why this is important is in the future, asking the right questions is going to be more important than finding the right answers. We've seen a lot of presentations here today. We can find the right answers. We have the technology. Right? Are you asking the right question? Think about this. A lot of the search engines, I'll take Google for an example, they're not search engines, they're answer engines. They're smart. If you typed into Google, into the search engine 10 years ago, when is George Washington's birthday? You get a list of links that would take you to pages that would let you find the answer. Now, you go and you get the Wikipedia dissertation and lots of other links of pages that they think you know what you really need. Are you asking the right question? I want you to think about the right question next time you get in the room. And here's some ones to start to provoke your thinking right now. Here's some thought starters for you. If we had to give away our current products or services for free right now, how would we make money? How would your teams or you answer that? Or what if you asked the people that work for you this? What question would you love to ask our customers or our employees, but you're too scared or embarrassed to ask it? Ooh, that's a scary one, right? By the way, the more scary or agita it gives you when I tell you a question, the more scared you are to ask it and more likely that you should be asking that question. Finally, here's a good one. You've just written a tell-all book about your organization. What secrets would it reveal? Right? So think about this. What killer question would you love to ask? All right, here's the next one for you. Killer questions, here's the next one. And I need to demonstrate this. And the best way to demonstrate this in terms of behaviors you have is to do some math. How many people here, show of hands, are good at math? Okay, I can't see very well. It looks like 10 of you are right now. We're going to do some math together. So we're going to do it out loud. I'll yell a number, like 10. You'll say 10. And then I'll yell another number, 10. You'll add it up, and you would say... People weren't really sure, so that's not a good start. I'll start with you, and then I'll fade to the background just to warm us up here to this next tool. First number out loud, let's say it, 1,000. Let's try that again, ready? 1,000. Next number, let's add it up, 1,040. Next number? 2,040. Next one? 2,007. Great, next one? 3,007. Excellent. 3,009. Good, next one? 4,009. Finally? You guys want to do it again? It's okay. I do this with CFOs and they say 6,000, so it's okay. This is a great example of what makes you great as a leader can make you bad as an innovator. You're taught to find the right answer quickly, and so you fall into pattern thinking, which can be okay, but sometimes you don't know the difference of being in a groove or a rut. You make assumptions, and the best thing you can do to really shake things up is to reverse or question your assumptions. So here's one thing I want to teach you about is reversing your assumptions. If you really want to kill the company or come up with business model innovations, you reverse your assumptions. Not the opposite of an assumption, but the alternative. So we worked with HBO. And really, anything goes at HBO, right? They have Game of Thrones, for God's sakes. They can do whatever they want. And they said, we really are in a rut on some things. How can we shake it up? And I said, listen, let me teach you how to reverse assumptions on some big client problems, but first let's learn this technique. Let's start with something simple. And so the EVP there said, you know what, then let's just something simple that I hate, and that's our weekly status meetings, guys. And I said, fine, tell me what your assumptions are about weekly status meetings. So she broke it down into 20 parts, and we had all the assumptions listed about meetings. Assumptions are truths, by the way. They are true about things. So here's some truths they had. They're an hour a week, right? They're managers only, they're in a conference room. And I said, let's reverse these assumptions to really make this something better. And here's what they did. They're 39 minutes. There's no time. They're monthly. Rather than managers only, we can invite a +1, or anybody can come. Or finally, they said, rather than the conference room, let's make it a secret location, right? Or it's off-site. And so they went through all their assumptions, and they ended up picking a few things in reverse. And just for demonstration purposes, here's a few things they chose. 39 minutes to keep people on their toes. They could invite a +1, and they didn't have to get permission. And imagine how shocked people were when one day one of the managers brought a guy, his friend, from Netflix to their meeting, right? That was like a heart attack, right? And then the final one was secret location, which, I'm supposed to be very open-minded, and I thought that was a really dumb choice. But she said, no. No one reads the minutes before they come to these meetings, and now if they don't, they won't know where it is. So that was a good choice for them. All right, here's what I want you to think about then. What assumptions are holding you back? And how can you reverse them? Take your biggest problem, break it into parts, and reverse it. And here's the last one, and I think this is going to be your favorite. And I'll tell it to you through a quick anecdote. There was a scientist, and he had 10 monkeys in a cage. And he decided that he would just do a little social experiment. And he put a banana on top of this cage. All the monkeys fought for the banana, and one of them got it. He ate the banana, and the scientist poured water on all the 9 other monkeys, and they were so mad. Next day, same thing. He puts a banana on top of the cage. All the monkeys fight to get it. One of them gets it, and he eats it. He's so happy. All the other monkeys get water poured on them. And by the end of the week, these monkeys, anytime a banana goes up there and any monkey tries to go for it, all the other monkeys pull them down. So the scientist realizes, these guys are smart. I'm going to change it up a little bit. I'm going to take an old monkey out and put a new monkey in every week and see what happens. So the next week, he takes an old monkey out, puts a new monkey in. What's the first thing that new monkey does? Right, goes for the banana. All the monkeys pull him down. And by the end of the week, that new monkey knows, oh my God, don't go for that banana, right? And at the end of 10 weeks now, we've got 10 new monkeys in the cage. None of them go for the banana, and none of them know why. This is what happens to us at work. Well, that rule was there for good reason. Somebody must have been thinking that through. But what if things have outlived their time, guys? This is why you're going to do kill a stupid rule. Right? I want you to think about this. What 2 rules would you kill or change that would help you better innovate? And I guarantee if you do this with your team, after 15 minutes or 30 minutes, they're going to come up with rules and they're going to want more time. And what they're going to come up with might not be rules, they're assumptions. And that's going to help you get rid of things to get to the work that matters. So let me leave you with this. A very simple thing to think about is change is a choice, right? You don't have to do it. And if you don't want to, don't. But do you want to be the one that's taking orders on the future or creating the future that you want? You can kill your company, you can kill rules, you can challenge assumptions, you can ask better questions. And all these things, right, are going to get you the behavior you want to make change happen. And with that, I'm going to leave you and say thank you very much. Thank you.